Lighting. Here's a 101 on lighting. Here's 6 12-volt bulbs, and one is wired in series, much like your old Christmas tree lights, where it goes into one side of the bulb and out the other. And when one goes out, they all go out. The other ones are parallel, each drawing 12 volts from the leads. The difference is that in series they only burn at 4 volts each, and in the bottom series they burn at 12 volts each. So in order to get dim light, particularly with street lights or lamps on the platform or something like that, it's best to wire them in series to cut the voltage down so you don't over apply voltage. Next one, please. Here's a case in point. The station had a number of these platform lights, and that's on the left is how it looks to the viewer. On the back is how it looks to the guy that's putting the bulbs in. I found that the globes are like pearls, and I found I could bore a hole in them because they're just plastic, of course. And I put a grain of sand bulb down each one to light them up. And one leg of the bulb was soldered, was glued to the casting, and the other leg of the wire was brought down to the back of the post to be hooked up. So then if I wanted to light the bulb, I'd put one wire on the brass tubing, which helps support and locate the platform lights, and then one wire from the wire, and it should light. I'm a little bit paranoid to see if it works, but and so far I haven't, but it's coming. Next. Here's a way of making Campbell streetlights work. I wrote an article on this a few years ago too. You replace the column with a 1/8 inch brass rod, tubing rather, and just bore a hole in the bulb support and in the base, and extend it down below the base for making sure you locate it so it doesn't fall over. And you have to bore a hole in the prism too for the bulb to fit, and maybe a little bit in the cap if the bulb has a little point to it. But those work. Next one, please. And you see I grabbed this slide, but I didn't have any lights, street lights or platform lights lit. But that's a night scene in Mystic. Next one, please. This is the freight house where see that door? That's the light shining through the door. This kit was given to me, so in order to fix it, I had to take the door out and put a piece of cardstock behind it so it wouldn't shine through the door. There's my styrene house. I found a spot between the grocery store and the freight house. So don't throw anything out, even though you can't use it in the prescribed spot. Next one, please. Here's Appleman's. Here's your interior detail. The amount of time I spent on making that detail, it was well worth it because it just took me minutes to do. Next one, please. Here's Amy Stills. Next one, please. This is the passenger station and the freight platform. Next one. Signs. To say that the value of signs is an understatement. You shouldn't undervalue the value of signs. I bet you saw plenty of signs since you got up this morning until you got here, and you can't even remember all the signs you saw. There's a great value in signs. You can establish an era. If I have a billboard on my layout advertising the attributes of a Model T Ford, and that is a 1925 Ford, so that pegs my era as 1925. I have another sign on a building in Deep River, and outside it says hotel, which means that building is a hotel, and it says Deep River over it, means it's in Deep River, so I got 2 for 1 for that sign. So you can't undervalue the meaning of signs. Next one, please. Now, you can make your own signs by getting these letter sets. You can get them from art stores or probably complete stationery stores. I like the second one in where you can apply them and you can change the color of the sign by, if you don't go outside the lines, of course, and make another sign. But you can change the color of any of these signs. I won't go into it, but technically what you do, if you want a yellow sign, you start off with a yellow piece of cardboard or paper. You put down the lettering you want, but you don't burnish it, and then you spray something over that, whatever color you want. It could be red over yellow, and then with Scotch tape, after everything is dry, lift the lettering up, and now you have red over yellow, and you got the yellow lettering. Next one, please. Wales Junction sent me Carl Schultz started Wales Junction, and he had signs for every category, soda fountains, automotive, a whole host of things. And those black and white ones are when I made the Gins and Gins sign on the grocery. Next one, please. For you contemporary models, all you have to wait till Sunday and you have a whole host of signs coming toward you. I would suggest to you to be sign conscious. Get a cardboard box, and if you see a sign, clip it out, put it in a box. You may not use it right away, but you might not use it for 10 years, but you come back and you see the sign, and yeah, I can use that. And I thought it was nice that the Quaker folks published theirs in all the popular scales. They had O scale, S, H, O, and N. But I put that in for a little joke, but there is really no scales of signs unless you're talking about street signs, like stop signs or yield signs. A big sign in HO is a small one in O scale, and you can interchange them. You can use an O scale sign if you want a big sign on the side of the building. Next one, please. Now, I said we're going to talk about preparation of signs. Back in 1925, it wasn't unusual for a guy to go around with a long-handled brush with stiff bristles and a bucket of paste, and if a circus was coming to a town or a new movie was coming to town, he was obliged to put them up wherever he could find a spot. So what we've got to do is simulate that. This is my drafting tape again, which I use exclusively for this stuff. This is a sign out of Fine Scale Miniatures sign set. And it's a piece of sandpaper. That's all we need. Next one, please. Now I put a piece of tape down right in the center of the sign on the back. And the reason for that is so you won't, as you're going through the next process, bore a hole in the sign. Next one, please. So you start in the center of the sign and you go in one direction, wearing away the paper in the back. And when you start to see the blue or the colors of the sign coming through, that's when you stop. Unless you want a sign that's been up for quite a while and you want a ragged edge to it. Next one, please. So that's what you end up with. And you take that piece of tape off and maybe give it a couple more swipes, and then you're all set, ready. Next one. Now here's the same sign on the same wall. This is the one, the way I just described, this is the one that comes right out of the sheet. And this one looks, you can see the brickwork showing through the back because it's so thin now. And it looks like it was rolled right on there. This one looks like it's either a cardboard or a metal sign on the side of the building. But the Gins brothers was the one that I particularly am pleased with, because that went right around the clapboards. I started with that sanding process, and I put it up there, and I put it up under the eaves, and then I stroked it out, and I went down one clapboard, and I had a straight edge, and I tucked it under the clapboards again until it was all done, and it came out pretty good. Next one, please. Here's a sign that was on the side of Amy's Dry Goods. It was a green building. I'm always changing colors of buildings. And I decided to make it brick color. You can see the green in places around. And it had this sign on it. And I started peeling it away, and it wasn't getting anywhere. So I got some coarse sandpaper and a block of wood, and I started going back and forth sanding. And I said, I'll sand it off. And I stopped, and I said, gee, that looks pretty good. We've been up for a while. So I stopped, and probably the Zeppelin bread is 15 cents a loaf now from when that sign went up. So some things happen by accident. Next one, please. I make my own crossbuck signs. I know you can buy them cheap enough, but they're usually out of plastic. They're usually pretty heavy, and the lettering is jet black. And if anybody has seen these crossbucks, the first thing they go is the lettering gets faded by the sun, and it gets grayer and grayer. And so I can control that with my computer. I just put these in Excel and put them across, and put them on a post, and put them right by the main line or the track. This sign is valid because the road here goes across a bridge, and so does the train. They both share the same bridge. Train obviously had the right of way, so you have to watch out for trains, and I highlight it with a magic marker to draw attention to it now, and it looks much like that. So I made it to look like it's been around for a few years. There's a few cans of oil to grease the gears, but otherwise it's on its own. A small platform to unload heavy object from a flat car or something like that. Next one, please. This is the freight house, which is the busiest part of Mystic. A lot of stuff comes and goes from here, and it's a beehive of activity. Next one. Across the tracks is King Cole. It's a structure I made when I was about 16 years old, and I didn't have the feel for scale size. These rocks for the foundation are like boulders, and these bands are very heavy. But I still put it right down in the front of the scene, and used it. Next one, please. Here's Appleman woodwork with piles of. Atlas makes this lumber piles, or they make a single layer, and you can stack them as high as you want. And it looked like wood, so I said, gee, why should I make a lot of problems losing up strip wood when I can get these right out of the box? So that's what I did. Next one, please. There's a few weeds and cans are starting to collect around Amy's dry goods. Next one. Oh man, Gin's got all his fruits and vegetables out on the walk today, and he's got a scale there. He's selling stuff right off the front of the walk. Next one, please. This is a Railroad Avenue structure. I don't know if you remember these. Well, it was all epoxy. The windows and wall are all one piece. And they had a unique look to them. All this design was built in. Even the sway in the roof was built in. and there was a shingle roof that leaked apparently. So now this side and all with the other side is all corrugated, rusted corrugated iron to prevent the leak. And so I named it Taman Brothers Garage for my grandsons Ben and Matt. This guy is having trouble with his car. I wrote an article for Gauge Gazette on that one. Next one, please. So here we are. Here's our focal point. And the back, I want to point to the distant houses, how it looks good from this point. Next one, please. It looks good from this point, too. Next one, please. And it looks okay from here, too. So the way you place them and the way what you do with the background structures is what's important, so that they look in any direction like they should. Next one, please. Here's a track in the streets, and I cut and fitted cardboard that was first. I had glued on some sand on the cardboard and cut and fit that thing. But there's an easier way, putting a piece of paper down and taping it on either end, and then going with the lead on an angle and over the rail and tracing every rail. That way you can glue it right to the cardboard and have a nice fit. Next one, please. There's Perkins Prados. He's a little bit nervous about the leaning towers, but and there's Mangini and Son doing the sign change. Next one, please.
Earl, how many slides left do you have?
Couple.
Couple more.
This is the last slide. These are the problems. You wouldn't think anybody who has 50 years of modeling experience would have any problem at all putting this scene together, but I do, and you're going to have some problems too, but it's up to your own resourcefulness and ingenuity to get around them. The grocery store had a roof line that had to be altered. Stone foundation had to be added. The styrene house didn't fit. Another one had to be built. 2 industry buildings were added, one eliminated. The Queen House was painted green, color change. The shed in the background house had to be extended. Amy's Dry Good changed color. Sign couldn't be removed, painted around the sign, which was happened to be a blessing. And Mystic Bank and Kate's building shape modified. There's probably a couple more in there I couldn't remember, but that's. I pointed these things out because you're going to come across the same thing when you do if you try to do the same thing. Okay.